especially in the Black community. So welcome again to everybody. Welcome to this event and this evening specifically dedicated to Audley Coley and his book, the new book that came out called Audley Enough Part 2. Right? Oddly enough, Part 2. But it's one of the things that we wanted to do with the Jamaica Association is really to talk about health and wellness. And part of the things that we don't necessarily talk about is the health and wellness, mental health and wellness of our people. Sometimes people say the person head is no good, but they don't really get into the heart of the matter. So we are truly blessed to have someone like Audley who can talk about his story, his journey with mental health and what that can look like for others, right? So without further ado, I want to say thank you, Audley Coley, for being here. If you want to stand here, I think it'll be great. And then we could do the book signing after, and really to talk about your journey, your story, and the genesis of what the first book looked like and now what the second book looks like. So I want to say thank you again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Messi. Thank you, Sharon, for that beautiful introduction. I'd like to thank the Jamaican Association and President Mark for allowing me to have the space. And of course, the space would not look like this if it wasn't for our interior decorator, Miss Diane Boyd. Diane, you want to stand and take a bow, please? Diane Boyd. Ladies and gentlemen, Diane Boyd. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, all right. So, yes. As I was telling someone, the journey actually started right here. Huh? The journey started here over 20 years ago. I remember when I was not in my right head. As Sharon said, when you're going through challenges, Jamaicans are very good. They have a lot of different words to describe, I guess one of the most common one at Jamaica is that you're mad man, right? You're mad, your head not too good, your head not right on, and so forth. Now, when I was 27 years old, I was here in Montreal. And I was actually working, as I said, as a professional dancer. I came here, I was dancing with like ballet jazz and, working constantly. And we did not even discuss mental health because in a dance world, when you had a lot of energy, you were considered creative. You might be a little bit, as they call it, eccentric. But eccentric is not even, it doesn't really do with being that you're mad, because the whole idea, you'll find a lot of artists, for instance, they have a way of expressing themselves that is not common to the norm. So myself, I'll just give you a little history about myself. I was born in 1958 in Jamaica, Mandeville, Manchester. And my father, Lester Coley, was a constable police officer in Jamaica, and my mother worked in the garment industry. Our background was very religious oriented, like most Jamaicans. Like most Jamaicans, we came, from the church, we went to Sunday school, went to church and so forth. So as long as you follow your Bible studies and so forth. So whenever anything happened to you out of the norm, your prayer, you have different ways. And if things really get out of control, some people go to Obiaman, or they go to, in some country, they call them Macumba, Shaman, whatever the case is. But while we were in Jamaica, we never had any reasons to go to Obiaman or go to any of those kind of things, because technically in Mandeville, that was not our thing, right? I was a Christian at a church in Mandeville. Anybody know Jamaica? The parish church right up on top of the hill. So we went to a predominantly Anglican Protestant upbringing. But my father And we had certain people in the family that used to love to go after those little Pocomania church in the woods, right? And that's where I kind of got connected into my spirit, because my father was stationed in Jamaica, in Kingston, when I was a child. And the first time I made a connection, there was a Rasta group coming through Kingston, and they were playing the drums. And I never knew the connection between myself and the drum. You know, I was a young child and stuff like that. So, but I found that the drum really, I connected to the drum in a way that I didn't know that later on it would actually be my path, right? Because as I keep telling people, I am a dancer, but I didn't choose to dance. Dance chose me. Because everybody have a different message. Bob Marley had this message through his music. I didn't realize that my message would eventually be through dance. So we're in Jamaica, and as I said, I was exposed to more, as I said, different levels of worship, Rastafarian, Pocomania, and our, as I said, our Anglican Protestant church. Now we moved to Toronto. So I moved to Toronto in, I said, 1968, right? So our family migrated to Canada because they wanted to have a better, well, education, because the education was very expensive in Jamaica at the time. And like usual, they were looking for a better opportunity for us. So my parents moved to Toronto. And as I said, I'm just giving you a quick synopsis of my journey. And a lot of this you'll find in the book that you're going to get after, and it'll break down the whole journey. So I was my father's bodyguard, because apparently when I was young, I followed my father everywhere. So they used to call me Mr. Coley bodyguard, right? Because I said my dad was a police, and everybody thought I was going to be a police, right? But so I come to Canada, and when I come to Canada, I came to Canada, there was all of these other opportunities that were open up, because in Jamaica, there's, you know, you're either a handyman, or there's only you're limited to certain things. Now I came to Canada in '68, you know, and we're living in Toronto, and there's all of these opportunities. First of all, I never saw snow before. And so now I came here, I see snow, and I was excited about it, you know, and so I got involved in Boy Scouts, right? Because my father was also a Queen Scout. So as I said, I was really, I wanted to gravitate to that whole military, you know, discipline. I didn't realize that at the time I was actually getting trained for the life I would live later on down the line. Because, so I became a Boy Scout in Toronto. And then while I was in Toronto as a Boy Scout, I used to do a lot of volunteer work, because that's what you do as a Boy Scout. You push older people around on wheelchairs, you do all kind of volunteer work, and it's for free. You get a badge, you know, and you're happy. Now, I did not realize that while I was doing this volunteer work, that I was being noticed by, you know, people in higher upstairs. And I was actually chosen to represent Canada, to go to the Scout Jamboree in Philadelphia in 1972. So, you know, just been in Canada, what, 3-4 years, and already I'm now adapting to my new country. So, I mean, it was great. So that's what I'm saying. All that time, with all the stuff was going on, Martin Luther King was killed in, I think, '68, and all of the riots and the uneasiness was going on. My focus was just getting as much out of my adopted country as humanly possible. So, you know, stay with me for a sec. So as I said, our daily routine was get up, go to school, go to church. go to school, go to church. That was our routine while my father was there. So now, at about 16 years old, my father get up one day, pressure take him, he filed bankruptcy, and he just walk out the door, just pick up and leave. We have a house, we're living in Scarborough, Ontario at the time. And my dad just left. He didn't tell my mother that he was even going to file bankruptcy. We just heard that he couldn't pay the bills or whatever, because unbeknown to me at the time, my father was actually suffering from a bipolar illness, but we don't discuss those kind of things, because usually in Jamaica, when you have pressure, the closest things that they relate to when you're not, when you get out of control or so. My father had fits at some point in his life, right? So that's how he dealt with his mental health. My father was also, as I said, very controlled. So he would, the fact that he was a police and he would go to church, it kept him very, very secure. It kept him, as I said, on a certain path. But he had had a very vicious temper, because when he couldn't control things, he had a very, as I said, a very wicked temper, right? But I said, you have to remember, those days for most of us this age or older, we did not discuss mental health. Nobody see mental health. So that means anytime somebody acted out, they say, I drop it up on them, or something negative along that line. So I eventually would be the first one in my family and in a lot of people in my circle that actually realized that, yes, you have a mental health issue, but it took a while. So my dad left and I became the man of the house at 16 years old. So I'm 16 years old. I have a sister and two brothers. So I have to make sure I work to bring in, to make sure we don't end up on the street. So for those of people that know Toronto, we were in a house, as I said, in Scarborough, and so we can't afford the rent. So they want to put us in Ontario housing. So the first place they wanted to send us was a place called Regent Park, and then they had another place called Jane and Finch. And as I said, I was 16, and I had a car, and I drove up to Jane and Finch, and I parked the car, and I looked around, and I said, no, bro. No. Because you talk about being guilty by association, because there's certain address that when you have, you're done. You can't come out, okay? Because what happens, you end up on social housing, right? And then you end up on welfare. And if you spell welfare backwards, it's a farewell. You're done. You're done. Seriously, right? So I don't know. I wasn't ready for that, because in Jamaica, we're somebody. My people have land at Clarendon and Manchester, and now we're going to end up in Toronto on welfare. I said, no. So as I said, my dad is out of the picture, because I said he couldn't take the pressure, so he just leave. And my mom and I got together and we prayed like that. And my mom would look at me and said, don't worry, son, we're going to get through this, as God is our protector and stuff like that. And as I said, if it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be standing here right now. So I always me get me like a job, them, get the money as I get the check, come and give it to mommy, right? Then the dance fever hit me, and we go quit my job. And I come home and I said to mom, I want to be a dancer. My mom go, dancer what? So we're going to pay the bills, who's going to pay the rent and stuff like that. So, we go on. And when she couldn't take it, one day I had a job, a nice good job up in Markham, making pizza. And I came home and I said to mom, I quit. And she said, all right, it's over. You have to leave the house now. So by 17, almost 18, she said, come on, I have to go, because the dance not bringing in any money, right? And I have two brothers and a sister in school, and she have to pay the rent, and she have high blood pressure and all kind of stuff. So I went and I looked for a job because I couldn't take it to Toronto anymore. So I pick up the Toronto Sun. And when I look at the Toronto Sun, I saw there was a job and it says, you know, they were looking for people. I thought that it was in Thunder Bay because this Thunder Bay is in Ontario. I never left Ontario once we got to Toronto. But I get the job. It was supposed to be a short order cook. And when I got on the plane and the plane just a fly, wouldn't stop. When the plane are going to land, I look through the window. I don't even see no trees, nothing. It looked like desert. When the plane land, I asked them, where are we? They said, you're in a place called Frobisher Bay. Frobisher Bay? What? So yeah, Frobisher Bay, that's the Northwest Territories, way up near to the North Pole. So when I got up there now, I didn't even have proper clothes because I had my Toronto clothes on and I'm coming out August, warm breeze lit me on, I never feel cold like that in my life. And this, I'm talking about, this is the summer, right? So I called back to Toronto and I said, Mom, I'm in this place and I said, I'm coming home. She go, what do you mean? I go, Mother, take up the $2 bill. Because back in those days, we had a $2 bill. Look on the back of the bill. They used to call them Eskimos, but now they call them Inuit. I said, that's where I am, where they live in the igloo and all of that. And Mommy said, yeah, Tande. She said, you're not coming home. Right? Because I can't go back to Toronto because I have nowhere to stay. So my mom said to me, you're staying there. It's like a punishment. But you see, as I said, God works in mysterious ways because I ended up in the North. I got a job and I worked. And while I was there, I met a woman. I had a child, and I love this child more than my life. Mary Elise, right? So within the time, I ended up spending 3 years in the North. But as I said, the bug and everything to get back to my passion, the call for me to get back to what my true love was to dance. But the woman wouldn't even allow me to leave now because I have a child with her up north and she threatened to lie in front of the plane if I'm going to come out. So I have to actually sneak away from the North to come out. And I came to Montreal and I started really pursuing my career in dance. I went to New York, studied, and so forth, and built myself up. Because one of the things that my mom liked about being up north is the pay was very good. Because they didn't pay you. They were actually paying you just for being there. They have a thing called isolation pay. So you get your money that you work plus just being there. So this is why right now in 2022, with the pandemic happening, I'm laughing because it looked like I was trained, I was isolated way back in the 80s. And now I'm here in the 20s. I'm laughing because I know what it's like to be locked up, right? Right? I can't go outside. And the government pays me. But now I want to kind of really stress about the book and how about the breakdown. So I'm here in Montreal. Life is going great. I'm dancing. I'm, working with people like Mitsu and Rennie Samar, Tapa, New York, Europe, the whole works. Then I met another woman here in Montreal that I had a son with, French Canadian. And while I was with her, I ended up having a breakdown because I used to work Monday to Sunday, right? She had very high tastes, I always want this and want that, and very, tapa, bling, bling, right? So, right, me, I was a working ants, so I worked from Monday to Sunday. So I didn't know what tired was, because this is what I mean about the manic, okay? This is what I'm getting to now, is that I worked to a point where I exhausted myself, and then I had a breakdown. And it's not until I crashed then I say I entered the world of mental health, because we never used to even talk about mental health before, because you're an artist. Now, when I had the breakdown and they took me to the hospital and they gave me medication, they didn't know what was wrong with me right off the bat. But then over a period of time, it took a couple of years, because at 27 is the first time I had a breakdown. But me, I wouldn't just sit down and have breakdowns. So every time they wanted me to stay in the hospital and put me on different medication, I just, flush it in the toilet, or my family never believed it was a mental health breakdown. They thought it's obvious. They thought, why, somebody put some kind of dump in the opinion, and so there was not the hospital and my Jamaican upbringing clash, right? So what happened? It took a good couple of years where I go to the hospital, they gave me the medication, I go home, my mother take it, and I love her dearly, and flush it in the toilet and say, no, son, this is not for you, right? But I wasn't well. But then, so what I did, I went on my own and I researched, and I found out about what bipolar manic episodes were. And then when I found out all the great people, okay, we have Frank Sinatra, we have Kennedy, we have world leaders, Castro. I can go down the list of entertainers that had suffered from a manic depressive, but they had different ways of dealing with it. Like in Jamaica, when somebody depressed, they just bust out a spliff, right? Okay, a man can sit down there with a spliff and feel nothing, right? It's so that's their way of dealing with pressure. So as I said, now once I was able to understand what I needed to do for myself, because it took me a couple of years as pics and certain people that knew me in the community. They saw me run down Montreal, man with me a rasta, me a bald head, me a this, me a that. I'm trying to find out, what my purpose was in this life. But until I accepted that I had a problem, and only I am the one, as Bob said, only you can free yourself from mental slavery. And I went to the hospital and I was able to get the right cocktail, because cocktail is a, medication. So because sometimes they don't diagnose you properly and then it throws you off. But once I got balanced, then I came back to myself and I used the same discipline that my father used to do with, you exercise. My dad used to walk a lot. My dad was a post office mailman to Mandeville, so I used to walk everywhere, walk. And it's over the period of time I realized that exercise, movement is the secret. Because when I think back at a lot of people in my family, I realized that they did have some mental health issues, but they never just sit down and talk about, make me feel depressed. No, they go work the ground, they work all day. And so when I was able to utilize that information that has always been there, and I went back to the religion. Because when I was in the hospital and my mom came and told me, my father told me, say, you're Job, because you could curse God right now and just dead. Because there was times, right, where I just wanted to give up, think about suicide, because from what I used to have to see myself now, I walk the street, me never thief, me never beg, me never hold up anybody with gun. But all of a sudden too, when you're manic, when you're out there like that, you attract a lot of negative, like police have stopped you all the time. I got arrested a few times. I was in and out of the police them. And then, as I said, I end up going in and out of the hospital for a good 10 years. So I'm living proof that there is a God, because as I said, everything that I went through, I couldn't have gone through it without certain beliefs and faith. Because when I started when I got the bipolar, the first time the police them pulled me downtown there, and locked me up. And, it took about 10 police to hold me. Because when the man about hold me and I'm like, what kind of lie in this? Because the man, and the same way, anybody you hear that knew me at the hospital, it take all 10, how many man to hold me? Because when they come to grab me, for some reason, I don't even know where it's coming from. They can't hold me. They tie me up, me let go this one. They tie me up, me kick out this one, right? So I didn't understand all that, but a young man, Cedric, who's a comedian now in Toronto, used to work at the Allen Memorial. He said, Mr. Coley, if you want to get out of the hospital system, you have to conform, all right? Play like you're an idiot, all right? Don't walk around telling them that you're Lion of Zion or you're this and that. Just conform, take the medication, and once you get outside, you can do your thing. And so said, so done. So as I said, once I got out of the hospital system, I had to go and apply for welfare here in Montreal. So the thing burned me like nothing, because now I'm getting something like $600 a month to live off. And then while I was on welfare, a friend of mine did my income tax. And I was working on the side doing modeling and doing little on the table thing there. So, and then when the government find out that I worked and I didn't declare it, they said, Mr. Coley, you owe $5,000. So I have $600, do the math, $600, and I have to pay back $5, right? But as I said, I work, I take my time, I wash dishes, I did what I had to do. And I never, as my father just said, righteous people don't beg bread. But my message, what I'm here to do, I'm standing here because years ago, I was right up here when I started my company. And Prezi was standing over there. And I came here and I was trying to find somebody that would understand what I was going through. And as I said, Noel Alexander, Prezi stand up in the corner. And when he see that I was lost, and he pulled me aside and said, like literally, Coley, you have to get some help, right? But the point is, you can bring a man or a woman to the well or to the water, but nobody can make you drink it. I'm so glad that I drank it, and I'm standing right here in 2022, and it's like I said, full circle. And I'm making myself available to the community at large, because especially I say in the Black community, when people are struggling when it comes to mental health and all of that, it's nothing wrong with you. It's no duppy, it's no devil, it's no nothing. All you need, once you get the right help, right? Once you get the right help, you can come back. And as I said, that's what I did. So once I use myself as an example. So I came back and I realized what was work. I need to sleep. I have to stop going out to party and stay till 3, 4, or 5 o'clock in the morning. I have to eat my food properly, right? And exercise. And now that at 63, I can come back. I can see my daughter grow up. I can see my grandkids grow up, right? And I can look at my mom that just turned 89 last week. And I'm just very, very blessed. I'm very, very grateful, because every time when I look back at certain things, if I had gone this way and I had not gone that way, right? But all of us have the power from within to change your destiny. So as I said, the book basically, the first book I had done, it was one of my students was going through a divorce at the Atwater Club, where I'm at now for the last 21 years. And I made a deal with her, and I said to her, I would get you into shape, okay? Because the idea was to save her marriage, right? Because when people are depressed, they put on weight, they don't feel confident. And I took her on as a client, right? And because she was going through a divorce, she never have any money. And I said, don't worry about it. I will train you pro bono. So for those that don't understand, pro bono is free. Okay. So we started to work out. And while we were working out is when we started to exchange. And she found out about my story. And she wrote one book. And she's a writer, but she's only written one book that was published. And it was a child's book. That's Les the Right Reefer. And she said, Audley, I want to tell your story. And that's how it started. And she wrote the book. And as opposed to paying me cash, we did an exchange where she did the book for the workout. That to say, I saved her marriage. She went to Jamaica on her honeymoon. And when she went to Jamaica, she came back and things went well. Now, the original book both books are available on Amazon. But the book was so popular, the first book, when Bell Canada was looking for a face, looking for somebody else to represent, because they had Clara Hughes, but they were looking for diversity. You know, they had, Blacks and Natives, and they got a hold of my first book that was brought to by Frank from L'Oreal of Canada, brought it to them. And next thing you know, I've been with Bell Canada now for 5 years, right? So this is the same madman. As I said, I used to run around Montreal, out of place, and now people are paying me ridiculous amount of money. All right, yeah. People are paying me money to come and talk about how to survive during these crises. And who is it but God? That's it. I don't take any credit. All I did is just follow the recipe. So now this book has just been published this last November 18th, and already it has gone. Okay, we're looking at a bestseller. We're looking at a bestseller for this year, right? We just had our first review, and they had a 5-star, 4-star out of 5. I'm going to find out one that didn't give me the star and deal with him, because it should have been 5 out of 5. All right. So there's a guy out there that don't believe, or persons that don't believe this is 5 out of 5. But for now, I will deal with the 4 out of 5, because, as I said, that's what's happening. And I want to tell you something. Until you can get to a point in your life where you can laugh at yourself, okay? Because that's what, with me, I don't take myself serious, because I can look back at the worst times of my life, the negative time, as I said, the police brutality, all of the thing. And sometimes, as I said, I laugh, because, as I said, I'm standing here and I feel the love. And as I said, I'm very grateful that Mark and Sharon and Diane and the Jamaican Association at large were able to bring me in, especially on a day like today, and also a year like today, the 60th anniversary. And I would just take this time just to say thank you very, very much. And I'm going to open the floor also to for like a Q&A. So if somebody in the audience or out there would like to ask any kind of questions, I'll be more than happy to be of service.
Commend you, Audley, for your bravery as a Jamaican, knowing how what it's like transferring from another country to a foreign country and trying to adapt to not just the weather, but the culture and the way people think and see us, especially being Blacks. And a lot of people, I can recognize and understand a lot of stuff that you said you've been through. Many of us have gone the same journey as far as finding ourselves in crisis. And at times our own people are not sensitive because they don't know better. They call you, names because they just don't understand. You know, I went through a similar crisis at that point, not to the point where you are, where you get those type of thoughts. You know, the time I was Conroy and those guys were running around, and I found myself in a crisis. And a lot of people, understanding what they were saying, they were trying to tell me stuff to try to make me feel better about myself. That was my experience with a higher power that kind of got me back on the road. So, and then I went to your book signing and I saw how the other community actually treated you well. and sometimes, yeah, it dawns on me, sometimes our own people don't treat us with the type of
the one with the hat?
respect and compassion that we ought. And I really wanted this to happen today, no matter the turnout, to show you the honor and the respect that you are actually the represent our community. People pass by and I remember seeing you on those posters and didn't even know that you were Jamaican. You know what I mean? I know that I know that you're Jamaican. So Jamaica Association will buy a couple books. And I think I also work in with the youth center, and I see a lot of, mental health is not limited to any specific group. We have young men at Batshaw who are in mental crisis. We've been through that situation many times where we have to actually go in and, kids actually go into serious crisis and they have to take them down to the same Douglas Hospital. A lot of kids walking around with a lot of medication and people wouldn't even know it. So what we can do our part as an association, we'll buy a couple books, maybe 5 books or so, and we will give them to select different families and stuff, who parents or friends who, have no people who are going through that situation and they don't know how to deal with it. Maybe just reading your book and seeing how the path that you take might be an option for them. And I think we have a duty and a responsibility. So again, thank you for doing this way. And we're proud that you're one of us. And, especially on the world stage. And it was right for us as the association to honor it. Okay, thanks.
Sharon, would somebody want to come up here to take the question, to acknowledge? Yeah, please. We've got a question. All right. Yeah, you can. Okay. These are
Hi, seniors. We're taking a picture with Audley, okay? We'll post it later. Thank you. I have my question. One more.
Okay, let's do that. Fantastic. Thank you.
okay. Oh, you need a question?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, no, it's nothing.
All right, go ahead.
Nothing hard. You said you came to Montreal. Why did you choose Montreal? And did you know anyone here?
Well, I chose Montreal because I was pursuing my dance career. Because when I came to Montreal, all I wanted to do was dance. So I did know somebody that kind of introduced me to Montreal, but it was all about the dance at the time. And Montreal was a place to be if you wanted to dance with ballet, jazz, or you. Dance was really big in the 80s in Montreal. So, it was the place for me at the time.
Okay. You mentioned that you have 2 children. You mentioned your son, and you mentioned your daughter. Do you have a relationship with both your children? And if it's too personal?
No. I'm out. I mean, like, it's no. Actually, my daughter, I have like an amazing relationship. Okay, as I said, she lives in Iqaluit. She's a teacher, and I have two beautiful granddaughters that, you know, uh, Annika and Abigail. And my daughter, as I said, we we're like just a great relationship. My son, because I lost custody of my son actually when I was in my bipolar episode, so I didn't see my son for like 10 years, and it was, you know, it was very challenging. And we just kind of reconnected a few years ago, and our relationship is challenging, right? You know, because the point is, my son is showing certain signs of mental health issues, and of all, you know, I can recognize it, and I've all, you know, I'm just letting him know that I'm there for him. Yeah, but we have a relationship, and he also has two boys, so I'm a grandfather 4 times already. So.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Oh,
And on behalf of the West Island Black Community Association and the seniors who are online, Doreen, our senior coordinator, would like to thank you so much for doing the exercise classes with the West Island Black Community Association seniors. They love it and they appreciate you.
thank you. Oh yeah, I love them too, man. They keep me. That's what I mean about having a routine. If I miss a class, right, Doreen? All right.
You have a question?
Wait. Well, come up. Come.
Well, for one, thank you very much for sharing. It's not, it's definitely not a topic to speak about. One question that I did have, because you did mention that at some point you started feeling that you were going through like depression or something like that. So how did you know that you were going through like this mental, situation, like before you felt as though you're either overwhelmed with work? What signs? Were they physical signs or were they just mental? Because I'm just wondering, like.
No, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I don't know how it is for other mental health, but I'll tell you for manic depressive. Usually, when you're going there, your thought speeds up. Okay, so if you're manic, all of a sudden you're going to be speaking very, very fast, and then you're going to want to have major projects. You know, like. All of a sudden I'll have I'm greater than Michael Jackson, or I want to put on a big show at the Olympic Stadium.
Okay.
So what happens is you get grandiose.
Okay.
Like like everybody else will have certain thoughts, and you will just kind of go to that next level, and that usually exhausts you. So you get high, like just like mentally high. And so when you go into depression, it's like you go high and then you go, and then you just exhaust yourself and then you drop. And when you come down, you're in depression. So usually people that are around will notice, like all of a sudden, Sharon will come to me and go, okay, Audley, we want to get this big building. We're going to buy, we can't afford it, but we're going to get this big building. And as I said, the thought, you speak really fast, as I said, and you get a very grandiose, and you might go days without sleep. And then, as I said, when you usually went through that lower, that depression, you crash, right? So if you know anybody around that, all of a sudden that that they're go, what? You want to do what? No. And then those are the warning signs. Yeah.
Can I ask how long, what's the gap between manic and depression? Is there a gap?
No, but okay. No, but it really depends on the individual, because I'm like what they said, a textbook manic, okay? So my mania can last longer than the typical manic person. All right, because they have type 1 manic and they have type 2. I was like, if you open the dictionary, I'd be the one standing next to manic 1, right? So I have gone maybe a good week almost without sleep,
Wow.
right? So as I said, you're agitated. So if somebody even say anything to you, you're good. So Sharon, that I'd say a good week, because without proper sleep.
Right.
And as soon as you get back on which the hospital is great for, because in the hospital they bring you down and they get you to eat properly or eat on time, and get you back on a routine.
And do the traits differ from person? Is it because it's your personality? That's why
Well,
when you went on it.
yes. That, my gosh. It's even like the medical field. This is great. No, that's great. It does, because I was brought up, as I said, very spiritual. So when I got manic, everything exaggerated. Like I actually thought I was Jesus Christ, So I went to I went to the point where I thought I was the second coming, because I grew up hearing that Jesus is coming back, right? So I go, why not me? So it's just like love, Mark. One, it's funny. So, but when I went to the hospital and I met all the other Jesus Christ, I go, what do you? So no, because I was not the only one. So, but that's a very good point. Somebody is more, say, aggressive or violent. So when they go on that manic high, they will exercise that behavior, right? So yeah, it really depends on who you are. Because myself, I was trying to
raising himself, get a road
my
pro,
character was something
they going in the
different
wrong
that
direction.
could have been, out there, a bus shot. Right. So, all right, good stuff. Thank you.
Rudolph wants to speak.
Somebody's already asking something.
Oh yeah. Well, as I said, now I'm like a PhD doctor. My doctors are my PhD in recognizing the signs. See, because what used to happen in the past, when you feel good, for instance, a lot of people, when they start feeling high or feeling good, they stop taking their medication. So I have to condition myself that when I feel a certain way, that is coming on, and I have to maintain my medication, and I have to get my sleep. So yeah, and exercise. Okay, because that's the mantra, right? Like, and what is good is like Tai Chi or yoga, deep breathing, so anything that because a lot of people that are troubled with, say, anxiety. When you have anxious, what's the thing you breathe, right? So doing yoga or doing, as I said, Tai Chi or so on, which I do with my group, for instance. We exercise, we do some Tai Chi, and it slows down your anxiety, right? So if you've had enough episode, I had quite a bit of episodes in my journey, and I lost everything, house, car, all the material. So every time now, when I'm see myself getting anxious or excited, all I have to do is think about the stuff that I lost, and I go, all right, that's cool. that's easy. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So if you know the person is bipolar, and you're asking, is there something that you don't want to do anything to trigger them? Okay. Well, the only thing you can really do, especially if you know that somebody has this, bipolar and so forth, is, well, not to aggravate them. And if you can recognize it and you can bring it to their attention, and hopefully they'll take the they'll do what they need to do. Because I'm at a point now where I know what to do. And if I see somebody going into an episode, I can bring it to their attention. But it doesn't mean that they're going to follow up. Okay. But and as I said, if it's you have somebody that you know is manic or it's a bipolar, the best thing that you can do is just be there, and just be very supportive. Right? You're more than welcome. Yes, Mom.
Before you do, Keisha, I believe somebody online, Rudolph, has a question.
Do
And then we'll get to Keisha.
do agencies or the
Rudolph, I have a
schools,
question.
do the agencies or schools reach out to you concerning the young ones at school, maybe the young man or female
Is Rudolph
who are
there?
in a situation like that? Maybe they're going in the wrong direction because they're single
not hearing.
parent,
Yeah?
single homes.
Rudolph, apparently they didn't hear you.
Do the schools or agencies reach out to you concerning the young men or young women who are in a predicament like that because they are single parents, the mothers or fathers have to work and the kids are not doing well at school? They may have a tendency to go off course, which could lead to depression. I'm not hearing him.
An issue here with that. Yes, can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you.
There's a problem with this.
I'm not hearing Audley. Can you hear me, Audley?
Rudolph, can you repeat your question, please?
I was asking if agencies or schools reach out to Audley concerning the young people at school. They may be going in the wrong direction, which could lead to depression. They're dropping out of school because maybe single parents and no one to guide them. Mommy is at work or daddy's at work and they're raising themselves, so they're not doing their schoolwork and they're dropping out of school, which will add to depression down the road. Do they reach out to you for help, schools or agencies?
Well, not yet. Actually, I have been the one that's been reaching out, Rudolph. And that is such a good, that is such, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that is such a good incentive because I would love to be there, especially for the youth, because as I said, when you're challenged with mental health, you want to see somebody that looks like you, right? It makes a lot of difference when you see somebody that looks like you to get the help that you need. And I did something at Desta last year where we were doing some work with the youth in the community. But I would love to do more work in the community with the youth. So I'm here, and if they reach out to me, I'll be more than happy to talk, to speak with them.
Because that situation could be hidden. They're dropping out of school because of different things.
Yeah, I understand. I actually also did something with Bad Shaw. I mean, I was a Molly that brought me down to Bad Shaw, but you need to have as I said, a regular thing where I said you have somebody, and as I've made myself available where I would do a workshop or be there, because as I said, people need to see somebody who actually, as I said, like myself, who lived it, and who have the same color skin and so forward. right? Because a lot of kids or adults are not very even comfortable about talking about mental health. So I
It's
putting
hidden.
myself out there, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rudolph.
All right.
Keisha, I believe you had a question?
Mrs. Keisha. Well, of course.
My question to you is, what if you suspect that you have a family member that might have this condition? How do you go about getting them to acknowledge that they have this issue and what measures can you take to kind of get them to come to terms with it?
You know, it's interesting, Keisha. This is the second time I'm answering this question since yesterday. No, because it's good. Because I did a workshop yesterday for L'Oreal, the cosmetic company of Canada. And the interesting thing is that people have loved ones that they care about that have a situation. And it's a very awkward, because even myself, as I said, you have to be able to accept that you have a problem. It's like an alcoholic, an abuser, whoever. Until the person accepts that they have an issue, it's very hard. So what I'm saying, speaking from my heart and my experience, the only thing that one can do is to be empathy, to be just be there, right? And hopefully that the person will recognize certain things and come, and be able to come and get help. But a young lady asked me yesterday at L'Oreal, and she was a Black woman, and she was very happy when she saw me as a Black man out there, because she had a sibling. And she told me the situation, which was very similar to yours. And I said to her, if you want, you can get him to reach out to me. Because as I said, it makes a big difference to talk to somebody who's lived it and who look like you, as opposed to even going to the hospital and just talking to a doctor or somebody who studied madness. Because who feels it knows it, right? You can read how many books all you want, but if you're gonna get boxed in your face already, and when I read about what it feels like to be boxed in my face, right? It's very different. So I mean, for the time being, as I said, you can be there for the person, but if you want, as I said, I'm here. So if you can speak to the person and let them feel comfortable, say, boy, I know a guy, you can talk to, and I have a way of presenting it, because was it Sharon, or was it last year? Somebody in the community reached out to her because they were having some problems with their 15-year-old son. And when they contacted me, and I said, well, I can't just walk up on the road and go talk to the man. I mean, you have to talk to him and see if it's, if he wants to talk. And the young man said yes. And the parents came to the house and sat down, and they were shocked because they found out stuff in that gathering that they never knew what was dealing. So when you have somebody neutral, like, as I said, like myself, right? And I will open the gate by saying, well, I live this. So you're not just kind of, we're talking like, or two persons out there exchanging. So as I said, when I say I'm here for the community, it's real talk. So if you want, talk to the person, call me, email me, and we can connect by all means. All right.
I got a question. So, kind of wondering where the Jamaican community has come as far as how we view people mental illness.
Being aware of Black people, you don't bring things out to the street. We all grew up like that. Is that if you get a beating or you get punishment, anything happen in your yard, you keep it in your yard. Okay. So everybody must remember there's a time all back home, there was somebody that was sick and they put them in a dark room somewhere. You know, when you go to some people and I go, why are we doing it there? Yeah, and you see one little door, and so because it's not, ignorance is blessed because you don't know any better, right? And with everybody's worried about what the neighbor's gonna think. We can't let them go out there on the road like that. So they think they're protecting them by locking them up, like, you know, because I said we have never been educated on how to deal with mental health issues. So I'm first generation deal because my family didn't want me to talk about mental health. They would have been much happier to know is Obia or Ducky. That is much more comfortable than go talk because we don't, you know, and Marky just said something which is amazing, where it's like the man is an athlete, he has money, he has everything. It doesn't stop you from losing your mind. I mean, look, Prince Harry, the royal family came out. They're all suffering from mental health issues. So what I like about what I'm doing right now, it's not about black, white, red, green, or whatever. Mental health issues affect everybody. It's just that we, the black community, are slow on the draw. Yes, because we have never had an opportunity. Because my grandmother, I mean, my grandmother would never say, you have mental health issue, generation and so forth. So your question is, what can we do? What we're doing is what we're doing right now. Okay, so moving on forward to set up to have a situation here at the association where you can even have, years ago I started something at Desta. It was called Overstand. And it was shocking to see the amount of young black men in the community that used to show up and just start to talk, right? Because they're not being judged. It's because we were always brought up, why, if you said that this man not right, and then, so we are in a position now where, yes, 60s, 50s, 70s, not this donkey years. Now in 2022, we can start to address mental health issues the way it should be addressed. Because as I said, the reason why as Mark said even earlier, he saw me on the billboard for 5 years. Okay, I didn't have a voice. All this is a black man with a bowler hat, right? They don't know nothing, and it's just within the last few years, people start asking me about mental health, right? Because L'Oreal, Bell Canada, CDC call me up and they want to know about mental health. And when I speak about mental health, yes, it affects black people differently, right? Because a black person goes out there and they act out and the police shows up, and he's shouting out loud, they shoot him. A white man will walk into a church and shoot up everybody in the church. Police come, put a bulletproof vest on him and take him to Burger King, right? And then take them, see, because anytime, and it's straight up, right? No, yeah, but the whole idea is that the stigma, right? When a black person, this is why you don't want to talk about mental health issues, because if you're approached and they know you have a mental health issue and you should be taken to the hospital with a police guard or so forth. But if you look at a lot of crises, a lot of situations where a black person is involved, they shoot first and ask questions later. And you've had situations over the last how many years where you will see a person standing there with a gun after killing how many people. And they say, oh, he's having an issue. He's having a bad day. And they arrest him nicely and bring him to be dealt with. All right. So that kind of game, right, would scare anybody not to want to come out and say they have mental health issues. But we're at a point right now, as I said, is a turning point where we, especially the men, them, the men them have to be able to stand up. I mean, I'm not talking about, you know, punch fists and be aggressive, because if you're not well, you're not well. And it's okay not to be okay. Because I remember one time when the police them arrest me and saw pepper me here in Montreal, I bawled tears for my mother. I was like a little baby. All I'm in the police cruiser, I bawl for mommy. Yeah, I bawl for mama, right? And so the point right now, with all the young kids coming up, right? You know, single parent and all that, they need a place. And this Jamaican Association could be that place that if you have the young kids in the community that are having whatever challenges and they don't know how to cope, they can come up here and they have a safe place. And especially when it comes to the mental health issue, as I said, I will make myself available. I mean, if I can't come at that time, we can call, make an appointment. And as I said, I have no problem with that, because being in the institution and seeing the amount of Black people, when I was in Partenay, when you look, it's pure Black, was up in Partenay here in Quebec, okay? When I went to Toronto, I ended up at Queen Street, pure Black. And then mother, you know, and because there's nobody, they have no support. There's nobody that come look for them. Nobody that bring them a food or anything like that. And that's what was good for me even here in Montreal, is that I had people even in the hospital system, like nurses and orderlies, that saw something in me and made sure they took care of me while I was in the hospital. When I was locked up at Partenay, they have man bring me food. So we are in a great position right now as a community, because now you know somebody that have a stigma or have an issue, right? You know, you don't care if you're the fastest man in the world, or you're look at what's happening in Jamaica. You saw the man them, they pass about the exam, and then next thing you know, they walk around the street. They used to, and that man used to be the brightest man at school. Madness or I'm losing your mind is not there's no race. There's nothing. So Mark, to answer Mark's question, Prezi, in 2022, we are going to establish a situation up here where there will be nobody left behind, right? So anybody that is having an issue, right, as I said, I'm putting myself out there because I go and I speak, you know, I like what Mark said earlier on, because when he saw me down at the Atwater Club and he saw Bell Canada and L'Oreal and all these people bigging me up, he go, no, man, right? But the difference is in the community here. This is something that has been so taboo for so long. And now, as I said, we break the spell tonight. We're done, you know, broke a glass or, you know, whatever you gotta do. It's finished. So we're open for business, right?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, tell me, what are you studying? What are you studying to be? Okay, but we need more psychologists now. Maybe after she leaves here.
I had another question. With regards to, like, because you mentioned that sometimes that we can be diagnosed, you know, like the diagnosed a lot of us.
Hello? Yeah. Yeah. I can hear you.
No, come on. So that they can see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I used to tutor this.
No, it's not reasonable for me, but if that's the lowest you can go, well, but you were telling me $100 and something before.
I would bring him because he was in a so I would bring him into the basement.
Hold on.
quiet there, and there was not a lot of distraction. And we're able to move through
Hello?
upstairs. I find you to be a bit active. So
Okay.
the day where I came and I noticed that his behavior
I
was
gotta move.
really dull, he really come and ask like one of the workers there, like, why is he like So then they put him on medication, and to me, it was detrimental to his health. I don't see it anyway. But the thing about when you were saying this diagnosis, because I feel like sometimes it literally could be a behavioral issue and be misdiagnosed.
But as I said, that's a great question, and what happens with that too, that I found, is a lot of times they just over medicate you. In a lot. So it's not like, sometimes while they're waiting to find out what your diagnosis is, and especially if you go into the system and you're, overly agitated, okay, right? So if you're already kind of docile and quiet and that, but if you're like really hyper and all that, they have a tendency. This is before they've actually given you a proper diagnosis to over medicate you. So, okay, so you're over medicated now, and then you're no use to nobody. So that happens a lot, because I know people in the when I was over medicated, and it takes a while, as I said, for you to work with your psychiatrist or your doctor, whoever you work with, to actually bring it down where, like there was a time I was on so much medication to at one point, they have a test where they put your hand out like this, and it's so yeah. So or your eye then open like egg and all that. So, and then, but I still try to go on the street and pick up girls, right? So if you see a man outside and he eye can't blink and he might go like this, right? But I'm just saying, I was trying to put a twist on it. But yes, this is why it's important to get a second opinion, because like even now, that, and you're working with this young man, you can reach out and get a second opinion.
Are you allowed to do that though?
Huh?
I'm not sure if you're allowed to, for confidentiality.
To get a second opinion?
Right, if you're not a parent. If you're just, there's strict rules around that.
No.
Yeah, they are.
No.
The bachelor, you can't, especially, you can't just, if you're not a parent or
no, but
approve. No.
But the opinion would, like, she recognizes that she speaks to the parents.
Okay.
Because it's a difference. Like, she's not going herself.
Understood.
So I see something in the child mark, and I come to you and I go, I noticed something, and then you might go, yeah, because normally you was doing better in studies, right? So yes, it wouldn't be appropriate for her, but if I recognize something, and I know for a fact that this person over medicated, I'm not going to go and seek an opinion. I'm going to speak to the guardian. Yeah. So, all right. No, okay. I think definitely we need more people like you in this, in the medical field. Yeah, there's a major shortage of psychologists and psychiatrists in there.
And as you see this, you can. I'd like to introduce you to Ohima Ferrante. She's with Concordia's Action, and also she in the next little while, and I think this relates also.
Sorry, but you guys not in the shop. I don't know.
So yes, hello. So I'd like to introduce you to Ohima Ferrante, who is with Action at Concordia University. And she is, and I think it's relating to mental health. It has to do with sexual abuse as in children, because that triggers, mental.
Oh yeah.
As people get older. And so Ohima is working, but she is also working on from that angle help to address the issues of sexual abuse and how that relates to mental illness. So, Ohima, if I can take a few minutes to talk about what you're doing, and I think this is a great opportunity to talk about two taboo subjects in our community that we don't necessarily address. Mental, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So,
There you are. There you are.
so sexual abuse and also mental and the triggers for mental health.
No, look over there.
And the triggers for mental health. So, Fiona, Ohima, sorry, go second, Fiona. If you can talk a little bit about that and how that relates, and if I can also say to Audley, how that plays into, particularly in the Black community, because it's big, it's major.
Yeah.
Kids, a lot of kids are abused, and people don't talk about it, and they don't talk about it even in adulthood. So it's
suppressed.
It's suppressed as
And
well.
then you have a
And you have a
trigger, and then
it
Yeah,
leads
yeah.
to- So if you can dovetail with
Yeah.
what Ohima has to say.
okay. Well,
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity, but that's basically it. So there's, I started putting together like an organization. It's a not-for-profit organization. So it's called the Dyna Mission, and it starts for the Diaspora Intervention of Awareness, the Diaspora Intervention Network of Awareness and Healing. So it basically speaks to the diaspora, so us, either over within the Caribbean, within Africa, within Canada, the US, and basically it's touching on the subject, the very sensitive topic of childhood sexual abuse. So specifically for girls and women that have been victimized and are dealing with trauma, because it does affect us. It does affect women in their psyche, and we are always led to believe that, you just sweep it under the rug and you kind of move on with your life. And just like you said, the religious perspective, sometimes we think that we pray about it, we pray through it, but it takes a little bit more. It takes a little bit more. So that's basically the conversation that I'd like to start through this organization, and eventually we have like different events, just like you're having, yoga and exercising, very powerful tools to eventually break down these.
Well, because as you were just saying, especially when you're a child, there's a lot of, especially if you've been molested, there's no nice way to put it, okay? And you're taught to keep it under the rug, okay? So this happens, and then you go to school, and it brings out certain behavior, like especially a lot of guys that get sexually abused, they become very aggressive, right? As I said, you have a situation, as I said, where there's not a male model in the family. So you're looking at people that grow up, that kids, and they're abused, and it's suppressed. So something happens as an adult. It's not. And when you have a trigger, that's why it's called a trigger. Okay, this is why we call it a trigger, because you never know what's going to happen to remind that person of something negative that was buried, and then it comes out. And then when it comes out, there's no way on how to deal with it, because this is where now, there's so much layers in the Black community, between, racism and slavery and abuse. And then after a while, people just take it for granted, just build, and it becomes a part of who they are. And as you were just saying, like literally, what I'm seeing, which is great, is that having an organization or having a space that when that happens, they have somewhere to go. Yeah. No, but this woman is more than accounting, marketing? No. You got to you can weave your skill like Sharon. I've known Sharon for years, and every time I saw Sharon, she was doing a different degree. Sharon is like a professional student. I mean, always learning. Yeah, it all. So of course it's gonna mess with your mental. mental health, mental is not just about here. So as I said, anything sexually, physically, whatever abuse that was suppressed later on, as I said, it comes out. And that's why it's easy to misdiagnose it. Because when you act out, right away they figure, okay, we're gonna over-medicate this person. And you cannot over-medicate somebody, and you can't medicate somebody for sexual abuse. You cannot medicate somebody for physical abuse, right? Because as I said, it's just like you press it down, and then when it explodes, it all come out. And there's no medication. And technically, what we're doing right now, this medication is literally having somewhere where you can speak about it. That's where the healing is. Yeah.
Questions? Online, are there any other questions? Audley, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come and be with us and for being so open. And let me take over my question. So open to giving of yourself and sharing and writing this book, and definitely purchasing the Jamaica Association, as Mark said, be purchasing books. And we encourage everyone in the room to also purchase a book if you don't already have one, and to read through it. I do have the first copy, right? Yeah. I have the second copy, but it's, you know, it's also that, as you talk about the healing part of this process, really being able to stop, look, learn, feel, and think through what is happening, whether to an individual, to yourself, or the people that are in your circle. And that is what building community is all about, taking care of one another. So I want to say thank you so much.
Okay, just before I go, I'm also will be donating a major part of the proceeds to the Jamaican Building Fund. Okay, and we're gonna have a raffle. We're gonna sell a couple of tickets so some people can. So as I said, this is a great gift. You know, where especially if you know someone who's having some challenges, you get them the book, they read through it, they can see certain things that they can relate to. And if they want to meet up with me and have a one-on-one and so forth, that part is free, you know. But as I said, I just want to thank Mark and Sharon and Diane and them for making this an incredible evening, and for all of you guys that came and sat through here, no nice, so well behaved. You see all those things they used to talk about Jamaica, they can't sit down for what, an hour or whatever and behave. Look at that. I applaud you. Okay. Oh, my Webka. All right, see you next week. My Webka links. You know, these are my
very well done, Audley. Was very well. And Sharon?
Because we exercised earlier today, and they're all dressed up. They're gonna put on their pretty clothes. Here's a look. Them have on all their nice clothes.
Sharon, I have to thank
Really appreciate it.
Sharon. I have to thank you for arranging this.
I'm gonna give away some.
Okay, so we should give out tickets, right? If you want to give away.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, yeah, you have
Okay,
to do.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right.
That's more exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, you want a ticket? You need to buy. Okay, she wants two. The lady wants two.
In the chat, Doreen.
The lady wants two. I think you have a few books, don't you?
So, baby, you're a part of your.
I have a two.
I'm gonna go sign them on. I don't want to sit down. All right. Is that good thing? Come on. Come. Okay, so 2. Okay. No, you just do the first one.
The one additional two. You want to take it?
Yeah. And I see it. Yes. What? Yeah. No, because you see, that will make us more official. Yeah, now spark. Okay? So,
I wake up at 5:30.
what is your thing?
Right,
Right, I'm not calling them money, sure I'm not, because as I said, a lot of this money is staying right here.
You can also get two. So who's gonna draw?
Diane.
Well,
Hey, Hazel, come on, draw for me, please.
Okay.
My friend.
You're gonna read the ticket at the back, okay? The number at the back. Put the number at the back. Yeah.
If I drop it, what number? Don't say no bingo, Keisha. This is not bingo. Bingo.
Number that pressure. Oh my gosh. So why don't I just read the number and done?
Because you know you're risky and then they give the person.
Is that the big one here, sir?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
I want 2, 3 for 2. No, 1, 2, 0.
The one that said.
Sorry. You see?
Hey, 1 second, 1 second.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being on with us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, all. Bye, Audley.
Don't.
Okay, so do you have the right? Do you have the name? No. Okay, so okay, all right. So what is